find the segment of the evening.
It's kind of exciting. Stacy, you've never been on the stage before, right?
No? Welcome.
So I assume your life has kind of gotten crazier and crazier as Corey's story evolved. And it's always been very fascinating to me to see the people in Corey's life serving as a kind of evidence of how crazy his life has been, and how much you've gone through in order to become able to be this role, this interesting role. I assume most everyone here knows enough about Corey Goode, but probably knows very, very little about Stacey. And how long have you been married to Corey?
28 years. Long time.
Well, this is your first time on stage, correct? So,
Yeah.
how about we can kind of dive into just a little bit about your background, so then we kind of just see where everything fits. So, I mean, how did you grow up? What was your lifestyle like?
So I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, and in a very conservative household. My mother's dad, so my grandfather, was a preacher, and my dad's from Pennsylvania. He grew up in the country. He's more of a naturalist, if you will. My mother was a dietitian, and then he is like a computer programmer. So I was raised by them in Kansas City in a very stable Ward and June Cleaver household, which I'm very grateful for because it gave me the stability that I needed later on that I had no idea I would need. I belonged to the Nazarene church at the time, and they had some great universities. So I was going to go to a Nazarene university. And I thought about different places. California looked pretty cool, but what drove me to go to the one in Oklahoma was that they were science-based, and like they had a pre-med program, they had a nursing program, and I was I wanted to go into the medical field. I was thinking physical therapy. And so I chose that place, and I did not meet Corey until my sophomore year, because he did not go there my freshman year. And he just kind of popped out of nowhere. It's a Nazarene school, so we went to chapel, I believe it was twice a week, and it was always like right before lunch. So after chapel, this guy that I had met and was friends with from my freshman year, he said, "Hey, Stacy, I want to introduce you to, these guys." And so he introduced me to Corey's roommate, Jerry, and I shook Jerry's hand, "Nice to meet you." And then I shook Corey's hand. He said, "This is Corey." And I kind of didn't get it. I was like, okay. But the minute I shook his hand, something happened that I had never experienced in my life, and I never have since. But the only way I can explain it was a soul recognition, because the minute I touched his hand, I asked him again, "What was your name?" And he said, "Corey." And then in my mind, I heard, "Corey, I'll never forget that name." And so then I was invited to go to lunch with them. I was like, sure. So I go, I have lunch. Now, I had decided, since my grandmother was a preacher's wife, I knew what she had been through and what my grandfather had been through. And at this school that we went to that had the pre-med and the nursing, well, they also had a religion department. And so I made a rule for myself. I was not going to date any religion major, because I did not want to be a preacher's wife. And so I find out Corey is a religion psychology major. And I'm like, my heart sank, and I was just like, man, I really felt something with this guy,
This major.
I know. I was like, man. So after lunch, I'm walking back to my dorm, and I'm having this conversation with myself, right? Because I made this rule up for myself. So I decided that he would be the exception. And and it was okay. So we ended up, long story short, we ended up getting married. We actually did not start dating right away. I should actually tell this because I think it's very important to listen to that inner voice, you know, like that for whatever reason, Corey, I'll never forget that name. I don't know, it was like a very distinct impression. But it didn't work out for us to be together. And I was really upset. I didn't understand because, like, it was so apparent to me. And without going into that story, I had to let go. I had to release him. And I was trying to figure out how to do that. And I was walking through the Commons building, where our mailboxes and stuff are, and into my head dropped that phrase, like, when you love something, set it free. If it'll come back if it's meant to be. That dropped into my head, and I went, okay, that makes sense. So I, like, released it at that point. And then we ended up dating other people and learning some lessons. That's how I see it now. And then a year later, we ended up getting together. So let's see, so we were in Oklahoma. I'm from Kansas City, and he is from the Dallas area. So yeah, I eventually moved to Dallas, and then we got married in '93. Let's see. So from there, let's see, I'm trying to think how, do you have any questions so far?
Well, so when you guys were dating, was there any paranormal experiences when you were early on in the relationship?
You know,
or
that's
did everything seem like vanilla and nice? And all?
Okay, so the first paranormal thing that I ever experienced was, I believe, I've been trying to scour my brain, but I believe it was our 3rd anniversary. We went to San Antonio, to the Riverwalk there. And the hotel that we stayed in was about, say, 18 floors tall. And then the pool was on, like, the 9th floor. So we went to the outdoor pool at night, and we're in the hot tub. And there's another couple there. And I look up, and my eye catches, like, what seriously looks like fireflies in the sky. But they're way up there. And they were, like, running into each other, flashing. And, like, I was trying to count them, but I couldn't.
Because these weren't real fireflies. They just appeared like it.
It looked like it, but it was aircraft. And so I looked at it for a good at least 30 seconds before I said anything to make sure I was really seeing that. And I bumped Corey. I'm like, what is that? And he's like, oh, whoa. You know, and so then we, like, the couple that was in the hot tub, Corey asks him, and he said, oh, I'm a pilot. He said, those are not planes. And so that was my first, like, and I've never seen anything like it since, not so many of them.
Could we give a rough estimate of, was it like 100 or?
If I had to estimate, I would say, let's see, 30 to 50.
Were they all moving in different directions? Were they all random directions, or?
Very random, and then they would, like, cross over each other. It looked like they would have crashed into each other. And then the two disappeared and became one, and then they would break off again. And that was happening constantly with all of these. So I couldn't count them. I was trying.
And how did you guys handle that night or moving forward?
Oh, we were like, yeah, I just was like, wow, that was really cool. I've seen a UFO now, you know?
So do you feel like you didn't have any blockage to becoming a believer?
Correct. Yeah, it made sense to me. I was like, yeah, it made sense to me.
Can I ask, in the way you grew up, was that something that people believed in, like extraterrestrials, or it was just something people don't talk about, but you believed in it forever?
I would say that, so I didn't really get into the UFO stuff. I mean, I wasn't really drawn to it, but I didn't discount it. I would attribute that to my father because he raised me with a very open mind. Even though we were in the Christian religion, he was always asking me and probing me into more critical thinking. So,
It's very important.
yeah. So I've always had more of an open mind.
Do you feel like the paranormal experiences you've had kind of like increased in frequency over the years, or they've been kind of sporadic?
Okay, so I saw that in San Antonio, and then that, that was like late 90s. And then, Corey and I were married, we had kids. Trying to think. I just lost my train of thought.
The number of experiences, the frequency of experiences, do you feel like that was kind of like uniquely strange experience, that you never had anything like that, you said? Have you seen any other UFOs past that?
The only thing I've seen is like a silver sphere in the sky that will kind of dart behind a cloud, and then I've seen that once and then disappear. It looks metallic, but it's real shiny. But I didn't really, Corey was always into UFOs, and that was like his thing, and I was like, whatever. I was, raising children, and, we were both in IT. So, very logical thinking. I was in a job that was very IT is pretty logical. So I would say the first, and this is what's hard. When the Mayans came, that was like 2013. And I don't necessarily remember seeing them, but I knew that morning something had happened. And I feel that I have a blockage. I really don't care to see them, honestly. I know they're there, and I'm cool with that. And I'm just not, honestly, I really don't. When the Mayans, when I saw them, I came out, it was in the middle of the night, I just felt something, and I come out to the living room, and apparently they were there, and I threw my hands up, and I was like, I am not seeing this. This is not happening. And so they apparently helped me forget, and then I went back to bed. But in the morning, I woke up, and I knew something weird had happened, but I had no idea what. So I come out, and I'm like, Corey, what happened? Did something happen last night? And he said, you remember? And I said, not exactly, but what happened? And then he started telling me, and I got flashes in my mind. So I think that honestly, my higher self is just fine with
Maybe you should remind people, what exactly did he tell you? What exactly did he tell you at that time of what happened?
What now?
What was this story?
Yeah, that the Mayans came in and they were running all around and, around the living room.
So these were slightly shorter people?
Yeah. Tiny guys all running around, dressed different. And so, I go out into the living room, and I was like, no.
No, thank you.
No, thanks. So, and then, so I've seen little different evidences along the way,
So what about when did you feel like you started to awaken? Was this a gradual process for you, or was it kind of you're in it, you see Mayans, now you have to get on board with this whole concept? How did
so
it go?
there was a moment in time to where I got help, I believe, divine help. I think that I just maybe wasn't getting it, and they're like, all right, you're gonna get it the hard way, like is kind of my motto. But I always tend to do things the hard way, it seems. But that's how you gain experience in this life.
So what was that experience of getting it the hard way?
We had talked before this previous that you had read Joe Dispenza's book, right?
Right.
And that was a big catalyst for you. Would we want to
Yes,
go into that for a little bit?
I'm trying to think of the year. I don't know if the Mayan thing happened before or after this, but Corey had bought a book. He felt led to buy this book by Joe Dispenza called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. I may be really damaging that title, but so that book sat on the table for like 6 months. And I was trying to change some things in my life that I couldn't seem to get broken through. And I was like, I wonder what that book has to say about, could I change like my thinking and my mind? So I said, hey, do you mind if I read that book? And he was like, sure, go ahead. So I started reading that. And when I got to chapter 6, I was reading it like dropping off the kids and stuff like that when I was in carpool lane. And one afternoon, I was laying in bed and I just sat down and I was reading a bunch of the book. I was in chapter 6. Things started clicking in my mind. I would say I just all of a sudden, like, things made sense. All these light bulbs went off and I understood why I reacted in this way at this time. And like, he's real scientific in this book and he really breaks it down how the mind works. And I'm very much that type of thinker. So I lay down for a nap. Wanted to digest the material. I do that a lot. And when I woke up, I was seeing the cosmic web. And I rubbed my eyes and opened them again, and I'm still seeing it.
Could you describe this? What was this?
The best way I could describe it, it looked like neurons in a brain. And so like a black background, but like white light, like the neuron structure. And then there were nodes, and then different nodes would flash at different times. And as these flashes are going off on the different nodes where these all things connect, all the, I was hearing, we are all one. I was hearing all the religions named off, Buddha, Jesus, like all the religions named off. All religions are the same. We are all one. And I understood at a deeper level, but that's all that I was hearing. And so that stopped. I stopped seeing the cosmic web, and then I went into the bathroom, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror going, whoa, that was weird.
Was it like a brief thing, or did it happen for like an hour, and you're just kind of...
No, it was, I would say it felt like 5-10 minutes.
Was it like
I
you could
got
see
it.
normal reality, and it was just kind of overlay on regular reality? Or was it like you're in a different dimension?
Yeah, I was in bed, but I wasn't seeing like my pillow or the wall. I was only seeing the cosmic web. Yeah, that was it. So that's why I like rub my eyes, like, what the heck? So I go out, then I started feeling like I was getting so much information poured into my brain, but it was coming so fast that I couldn't disseminate it. I had no idea what was coming in.
It's like a download?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had no idea what was happening to me. So I was starting to panic a little bit. So I ran out to the living room, and Corey's been having all these experiences and stuff, so he might know, I hope he knows what's happening, and he did. He said, oh, you're getting a download. And I was like, oh, you know what's happening, thank goodness. And it lasted, I would say, 2 hours. And I was honestly begging for it to stop because it was too much. However, after that experience, I had this knowing about things. Like, he would say something to me about an experience he had, to where before I was like intrigued and kind of like, oh wow, and trying to wrap my brain around it. But then after that download, he would say something, he would tell me about, what was going on, and I was like, oh, wow. And ever since then, I've had very quick shifts in my life also. But that download, I really think, I needed that help for me to catch up.
So this was a 2-hour-long experience. Mm-hmm. Did it have like stages where you were processing certain types of things, or do you even remember?
No, it just felt like information was pouring in so fast, and I had no idea what I was receiving. But I told Corey, I said, I feel like I can write volumes and volumes of books, but I don't know what to write because I don't know what's coming in here. So, but as time went on, I was seeing that I had like a knowingness about certain things.
So would you say this was different than like your normal intuition?
Yes. Oh yeah.
So would you want to go into that? Like how did it differ from just like knowing like that you're going to run into someone? Let's say something like that.
It's
like,
just like an overall a more deep overall understanding of, yeah, it's been a gentle unfolding, luckily. I mean, as far as like the information that I think I received, because I've like noticed this kind of knowingness come online. I can't even think of any examples. Except that, you know, when he would tell me some, you know, what had happened the night before, I was just like, oh, okay, like it made total sense to me. And then I started reading The Law of One, and
made more sense.
yeah.
So then how was reading The Law of One? Did things make sense because you read the book, or you had this like cosmic web download experience? But before, did it not make sense? I guess.
I didn't try to read it before the download.
Okay.
So I read Joe's book, and then at one point, after that, I read The Law of One. Not all of it, I only made it to book 3, but the first book was blowing my mind because they were saying things that he was experiencing, you know, different things, and I would, you know, or information. And so I'd run out to the living room and I said, you have to listen to this, you know, and I'd read it. And because he hadn't read it yet, every time he tried, like, he couldn't. It's like he had dyslexia and he couldn't read it. Yeah, and he got assistance at one point. I know he's told that story about a contact in the desert. When he came back, he was like, I finally got to, he told me about the experience of, you know, what he heard out in the desert, and he was able to read it, because I know he was so frustrated. He's like, every time I try to read that book, I just can't, you know. But that download was definitely, I needed it to be able to wrap my head around everything.
So was there a point where you just didn't want to hear things from Corey, certain areas, or was he afraid to talk about certain things, and he became less afraid over time to talk to you about certain things? Did your communication get better?
He always told me. He always told me what was going on. And I was seeing just different weird things, you know, like, I don't know.
How did you feel about it, like when you first started hearing about the different experiences? Were you just like, this is
unsettling.
too much, I don't want to hear it, or I can hear it but I don't understand it? What were you feeling?
You know, I have to go back to when the very first audio interview tapes came out, the very first ones. That interview happened in our duplex. And I was essentially just pacing around in the background, hearing bits and pieces, and then I would leave. Hearing bits and pieces, and then I would leave. Because I was really trying to wrap my head around what was going on here. And not long after that, I got the download. And then I was seeing things. I did see, oh, this is interesting. As we start talking, I remember. So much has happened. Our kitchen window faced the street, and our front yard, right, is right in front. So it was an active neighborhood. A lot of kids would come by on bikes and stuff, and I'm doing the dishes, and kind of out of the corner of my eye, you know, I guess up, I see this black blur go really fast on the sidewalk, it looked like. And I was like, wow, that kid was really fast. Discounted it. A few weeks later, it happens again, the exact same thing. And I think, wow, that's a fast kid. Discounting it. The next time it happened, it ran right in front of my window. Like, not at the sidewalk, like, right in front of me. And I was like, Corey! Freaked me out, because the thing was like, it was a blur, and it was probably about 12 feet tall. I mean, it was very tall. So,
It's scary. I know I would definitely not be so calm.
What
if I
time
saw
of day?
something like that. Yeah.
oh, this was all daylight.
So it
All
was,
three.
Was it like a shadow, or it was like literally a black man or something?
But a blur because it went so fast. So,
So then what did you guys talk about this experience? Did you
talked
figure out
a
what
bit
it
about
was, or yeah, like how did you
there
get
was
some answers to it?
I don't know. There was so many weird things going on there. I think that since Corey, when he came out, it seemed like we were having a lot of different visitations. There for like a couple of days, we were hearing, it sounded like maybe an 8-year-old child, a couple of them running around on the roof. And that happened for a couple of days. I honestly, I have come from a Christian background, okay, and we also, Marissa was seeing lights outside of her window. I was really not handling this well, you guys. I mean, so much was happening. Like Marissa, in the morning, she tells me, she's like 9, 10, and she said, Mom, in the middle of the night, there was something outside my window, these lights that were playing with me, trying to get me to come outside. And my heart just stopped, and I was like, what'd you do? She said, I didn't go outside. And I said, okay, good. If that happens again, you need to come wake me up, please. But we did have a whole family abduction experience there also that happened.
You want to go into that a little bit?
Is that okay,
Does
Corey?
everyone recall it? Do you guys all recall the experience?
Marissa does.
That's wild.
He did. He was the one that really recalled it. Mm-hmm. Oh, maybe I shouldn't tell it here. It might freak him out.
Is it
You
okay?
did?
Is it okay, Connor?
That Texas or Colorado?
This is Texas. In the duplex. Okay. And he's seen a lot of things too. Woke up in the morning, had the same knowing that something happened. So I get up and I ask him, Corey, what did something happen last night? And he was like, yeah. And he asked me if I remembered, and I said, no, I don't remember. So Connor, when I go, he was about 4 years old. He was sleeping in his own bedroom. He might have been 3. But there was blood on his sheets. And that was like up near his head. So I believe it came from the nose. There was blood on his nose a little bit, and then he had some scratches on his chest. And that as a mother, I was like, oh my gosh. And he remembered, I was like, he's all scared. He remembered, he was talking about the 6-fingered men that had yellow hair like mommy. And he talked about it for quite a while. I'm trying, day and a half maybe. And then I think he was processing. He was telling Corey he was very alarmed, and he was like, upset this happened. And so that, yeah. So I started going around. I didn't know about saging or any of that. So I just started going around and saying, if you're of the light, you're welcome. But if you're not, you have to leave. And that made me feel better. I felt completely like I had no control. I mean, even at night, what was going to happen to us, what was happening to my kids. So after that, like Connor was sleeping with us, and Marissa too at times. So.
Do you feel like your upbringing, your faith gave you some kind of sort of protection, or gave you tools
Gave me
to
tools.
feel protected?
Yeah, gave me
Okay.
tools.
Would you like to give any maybe examples of maybe something you learned as a kid and then you could translate it
Yeah, just
over, or some kind
I'm
of
just
belief
trying to
system?
think. Yeah, I just used the name of Jesus, is what I did. That's what I was taught. So I just said, hey, if you're of the light, you're welcome here. It was hard. I slept a lot. I was processing so much that I took 2 to 3 hour naps every day, every afternoon, because my mind was just processing so much, and I'm sure it was processing some of that download too. But I did that for probably a good 2 to 3 years, and now I'm back to normal. But I feel like I was processing so much. I do a lot in the dream world. That's where I repair.
So, I mean, kind of leading into that, are you able to do like astral projection or what's it called, lucid dreaming? Are you like, can you do that quite well? I mean, or you just have vivid dreams that are...
I don't know what you call it, but one time Corey and I had a shared dream, and we were listening to, what's his name? The remote viewing guy. No. Oh gosh. Anyway, we were listening to a remote viewing, these tapes. I think it was remote viewing. And we were doing it before we went to sleep. And then, who? That's it, Gerald O'Donnell, thank you. We were listening to those, and we were doing this for weeks, and Corey was like, yeah, he talked me into it or whatever, and I was pretty open-minded, so I'm like, sure, let's see what happens. And we had a shared dream. Like, I was like, I had this dream, this happened, and he goes, yeah, and then this happened, and I was like, yeah, and then we went here, and he was like, yeah, and then we did this, and I was like, and it freaked me out. So, I mean, it was cool, but I was like, whoa, what was that? And I mean, this is years ago. We had been married like 3 years. So I didn't understand. So I'm a little reserved when it comes to, I don't try to do it. I do feel like I've had dreams where I felt like I've gone places. I don't know what you would call that, but they feel extremely real, and I'm always doing the same things in the dreams. I'm always in a place that looks like the Swiss Alps, and since I was in Texas, I'm always arriving in where that's not appropriate, and so I go to an outfitter's place, and I get, warm wear, and then I have no idea what I'm doing there, but I've had a lot of dreams like that.
Does it feel like you're in this body, or if you look down, you've got different feet, different hands? Like, do you look like you're in Stacey's body?
Interestingly enough, I've never seen a mirror when I'm in that frame.
Or like look down and be
But-
like, oh,
Yeah, no, it seems like me.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We could get into a few more of the things that have happened in your homes. How many different homes do you feel, I guess does it mainly start back in 2013, 2014, and then?
2014 is where like all the different visitations were happening. It was like right after he started, talking about this. And then that kind of died down. The military abductions, I think that kind of bothered me.
Could you go into more details about what was it about it that bothered you?
Because they were taking him.
Did you notice him gone, or was
No.
it like you just knew he was back and he told you?
Funny enough, I didn't ever notice when he was gone, but in the morning he would look so completely drained. And then one time in the backyard, I was seeing evidence of craft landing in our backyard. And yeah, so.
Like, what was the evidence?
Oh, I have it on a camera somewhere, but it was like a triangle of squares that were like perfectly spaced. And then a line. There was a line, like a landing gear, like a, ramp thingy. So I went out, I told him, and I went out and I took pictures of it, and then yeah.
So does it seem like the more experiences you guys experience as a family, or even as a couple, did that progressively get more and more after like 2013? And like, did your awakening coincide with when Corey kind of awoke to all the true reality that he experienced?
I was behind on that. I mean, he was awakening and I didn't understand certain things. And also if I can go back to the Mayans, when I saw the Mayans, when he told me how they helped him, this is actually quite important. When I went to bed the night before, he was a wreck of a man. I mean, he was so depressed. I've been with him for a long time at that point still. I had never seen him so broken, and I didn't know how to help. Like, I didn't know what to do. The next day, I wake up, I feel like something happened. I come out, I ask him, did something happen last night? And he was like his normal self. It was like 4 layers of trauma had been peeled away from him. And I distinctly told him, I said, I don't care who they were, I'm just happy that they helped you. And that's honestly all I cared about. I was like, I don't care who they were, I can see that you're, you're like you were prior to. And he didn't tell me that he was getting all these flashbacks. So that's why it didn't make sense to me why he was so completely depressed during the eye surgery. It was very hard for them to attach that retina. It took like 3 different procedures. So I was like, why? Okay, you're going through a medical issue, but how are you so depressed and so broken? He was getting the recall, and that's why. And then the Mayans helped wipe that away, help him forget it. And so that's why when the next morning, he was like a different person. He was back to himself.
So then, being his partner, did you feel like there was nothing you could really do in that situation? Because, I mean, he was experiencing something that you just didn't understand at the time, let alone talk about.
As far as the Mayans? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I honestly, I was just happy that they helped him, and I was done with it.
So
Just
did you
being
think of them
authentic.
did you think of them as extraterrestrial? Did you have that box in your mind?
Well, yeah. That's why I knew they were not from here. Yeah. So, and I was just like, I don't care, who they are or whatever.
So then, can you maybe tell us about like the first time that Corey was telling you about his 20 and back experiences? How did you respond, or what did you think when you first initially heard those kind of stories?
When I first heard about it, I became unsettled because just the whole thing, I was like, you can be gone for 2 minutes. Of course, I was looking through the eyes of a mother. So I was really unnerved. I didn't know how to protect my children from certain things that were happening. So he actually confronted some of them off planet about that, because we were really worried that they were going to be dragged into it, And so like I said, I didn't really, after the download, I was able to wrap my mind around it. Like I was able to understand that this was the case. But I just lost my train of thought, sorry.
I guess I assume there was an awkward period there, is what we're saying. That
Yeah.
You had to kind of.
Yeah, I had to really, all the information that I had to really wrap my head around it. But I knew this was happening. The signs were there. I knew my husband. I had known him for so long. And then, the weird experiences, that download was incredible. I've had, I don't know, tried to think of all of them. I was really just trying to survive. I mean, honestly, on the inside. But then as I was able, it was uncomfortable until I got courageous and the time came for me to step into the conference realm and into the public. And when I did that, I got a whole bunch of other knowingness. The first, we were at the New Living Expo, and that was the very first time I sat in an audience and heard him talk. And as I was sitting there, I understood why. It became very clear why I had the parents I did, why I had the grandparents I did, why I had certain experiences in my life. It all was coming to me, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, wow. So I understood at that point, and then I had to step into it. And when I did that, things got better. Actually, you know, it just, I think that helped though, because it I understood why I chose my grandparents, you know, and why I chose a dietitian as a mother, because I had to, during all this time as well, I was suffering with ulcerative colitis, an autoimmune disease. I had that, I was diagnosed with that right after Marissa was born. I had it for 12 years, and so that was a whole healing journey that I had to go through as well.
Do you feel like that helped you in your spiritual growth as well? I feel like many people find trials and tribulations to help propel them forward. Did you see that was the case for you too?
Yeah, definitely. As far as the UC and healing, yeah. But I had and I was able to see little angels along my way, like early in life. Like my dad, he's a naturalist. He never went to the doctor. He told me that if he supports his body will heal itself. So I had him, and then I got into the medical field. I did work in the medical field for a few years. And I found out I was too empathetic, and I couldn't really handle it emotionally. But I met a nurse when I was working there that taught me, she had been a nurse for 20 years, but she was going to herbology and acupuncture school. So she was teaching me all about herbs, and she did acupuncture on me for 6 months. And I had all these, thank goodness, I had these angels along the way, these helpers, because when I didn't know I was going to be diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, and Western medicine did nothing for me. They had no answers. And so I had to go the holistic route. And when I did, I was able to turn my gut around, and I don't have that disease anymore. So
It's amazing. I'm sure many of us have seen that Western medicine can't always provide the solution for what we're looking for.
right. And then that also, I was also there for a while. I was on a lot of medications. And so that was in 2017 is when I pretty much got off of all of that in a gradual manner. I believe I had divine assistance, definitely, but I was eating better. I was doing things right. So I tapered off, and I think that helped, definitely. And then I completely changed my diet, but I couldn't eat anyways. So I think I set that up for myself, honestly. Because, you know, the gluten, I can't eat gluten, and I went to juicing more and learning which foods are acidic, which foods, because that I needed to be, I needed to decrease the acidity in my body, and then the inflammation as well. So it took me 6 months, but I mean, honestly, that's not long. I suffered with it for 12 years. And was able to turn it around in 6 months.
I think it's very much a testament to how powerful looking at your body in a holistic manner, you can go much quicker in healing.
Yes.
Compared to a system that wants to keep you ill, right, and on medication and
Right.
tries to help, but I mean,
And a
doesn't
lot of it
always
was
get it
through
right.
a lot of it was through my own research, just because I was desperate, because their answer for me was not a good one. You know, I didn't want surgery.
So then how did you hear what regular doctors were telling you and kind of keep your own mind space and hold your vision of how you want to be healed? Because I feel like that's something that when you have a difficult life experience, anyone here, it's hard to hear like an authority figure tell you the reality and then you decide that it's going to be something else. How did you go about that?
I've always had my intuition, I think. Just, I'm diagnosed with this disease. They don't know what causes it, and they can only maintain the symptoms, and they don't know how to cure it. It just didn't set well with me. And my dad had always taught me, if you support your body, it'll heal itself. And they didn't know what was wrong. So, and I wasn't getting better. They were just band-aiding me, and pretty much they wanted to put me on low-dose chemotherapy drugs. Biologics is what they call it. They don't tell you it's a low-dose chemotherapy drug. They say it's biologics. And so I told the doctor I would not go on biologics. And so he fired me, and because I was not compliant.
Maybe for the last few minutes here, it's 8:23 now.
Okay.
We could get into, so have you had to, is it like very frequent or occasional experiences of beings in your home, or does that seem like it's gotten better over time?
Okay, so in one house that we had a lot of, I think people were doing black magic. So we had a lot of dark entities that were there. And that was scaring Connor, because he was, this was a couple of years ago. He was like probably 8. We moved, however, recently, and from that place, and it's been better. So, but we do a lot of cleansing of the home, because we're just now accepting that if you're a light worker, there's going to be adversity come your way. So you just have to learn how to, and this has been an experience for me because I was raised Christian. Praying is a tool. I needed more tools. So I wanted to know what else was out there, So saging, things like that, we do that to help out.
And I'm sure you guys use like the power of your intention, right? To
my
pair
gosh,
with it
yes.
so you can clear the things that are there.
Yeah, and that's key. It doesn't matter what you use, what I used Jesus, because that's my upbringing. You can use whoever, you feel would assist, because it is all in your intention. You have to have the intention. Like I was yelling, like when you have to get out, I was like, I was like screaming,
What was it that triggered that?
Oh, that's when, like we got abducted, and like all these things were happening in the duplex, and I felt like I had no control over what happened when I was asleep. That's very unsettling. And I've never really, as far as I know, have abduction experiences. I don't know. The mind wipes, I guess. Maybe, I don't think so.
Does everyone in the family seem to see things about the same amount in the house?
I think I have a bit of a blinder on, because I don't want to see them. I really, really don't. Everybody else does see them, though. Yeah. Marissa will tell me it's time to sage. A shadow being was playing peekaboo. This was at a different house. Yeah. Yeah. And one time they all surrounded Connor, and that was the freaked out. Yeah. So, but
did he explain that to you, or did you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was only a couple years ago. Yeah, he explained the dark shadows, and they were all around him, surrounding him. So, yeah,
Do you feel like having these kind of paranormal experiences and going through it as a family kind of brings you closer, and then also like helps your own spiritual evolution with learning how to deal with the different entities and beings and everything that you guys have experienced together?
Definitely. I'm so grateful I had the foundation that I did to go, to be able to go back to and pull from. Definitely, because, faith, I've lived a lot by faith. My faith has been strengthened too. And that was really the key for me, was my faith, was that I had to just, put it out there that, I was being protected, and that's helped tremendously. And then along with the different clearings. And then I was taught in my Christian religion that, about the spiritual battles that happen. And it's funny because, I was taught that, and then, in my 20s and stuff, I kind of got away from church and kind of, was living my life. And then, as you know, now I'm older, I remember thinking, gosh, this spiritual war, they were not kidding. Like, this is, wow, yeah, there's so much we don't see. So,
That was a confirmation.
everything okay back there?
Are you feeling like you're making improvements? Is your faith growing? Do you feel like things are getting better for you?
Yeah, I feel pretty solid in it now. Yeah.
Well, any closing thoughts we should share or anything?
Well, I just really appreciate you trusting us to come onto the stage here and share with the audience and definitely give a more intimate experience. So thank you for doing that. Truly.
Thank you. Thank you for bearing with me on my first time on stage.